master's degree in international commerce and policy from George Mason University, and a Juris Doctorate from the George Mason University School of Law and Economics. In August 2002, he was elected to the Senate of Virginia, where he served until January 2010. And then on November 3rd, 2009, he was elected as Virginia's Attorney General. After being sworn into office on January 16th last year, he took on the responsibility of overseeing the Office of the Attorney General and its more than 300 attorneys and support staff. Just over 2 months into his term, he walked over to the Federal District Court and filed suit against the federal government, claiming that the individual mandate to purchase health insurance in the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act is unconstitutional. And as of a month ago, one judge agrees with him. Ladies and gentlemen, Attorney General Ken Cuccinelli.
Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's good to see you all here in Richmond. I've been spending a little more time here since I've been in the AG's office for a year and a day, and it's been a not boring year. But at the very beginning of it, you all were leading an effort to pass the Virginia Healthcare Freedom Act and doing a great job of it. And you were successful. And that put Virginia in a unique position even among our sister states, because as you all know, there's been some constitutional litigation over this. And the first round of every constitutional case is the attempt to kick out the plaintiff. And the United States tried to kick Virginia out, said we didn't have standing, we weren't injured. Not sure quite what you need, but one thing you gave us was something other states didn't have, and that was the sovereign injury of protecting our own legal code. You and I, each of us individually, don't have that. The way I explain it to people is, you can punch me in the nose, but you can't punch Virginia in the nose. Doesn't have a nose. And while you can deny the Commonwealth, or attempt to, we'll see, the ability to enforce its own code of laws, you and I don't have a code of laws. Now, Virginia and each of us individually are protected under the Constitution. Virginia is a sovereign entity unto itself under that Constitution. And the tool you gave us, I believe, has so effectively convinced the federal government that they aren't going to win the standing argument, that now as we begin the appellate level, we're seeing specifically in the Sixth Circuit, where they've already filed a brief, they are throwing in the towel on the standing argument. They're throwing in the towel. And it's because I think they realize they're not going to win. And you all helped us get to that point. That brings us to the merits of the case, which is the question of whether or not our federal government can order us to buy any product. This bill is about health insurance, not health care, health insurance. And they're ordering us to buy health insurance. But if they can order us to buy this, they can order us to buy anything.
Yeah.
And that incredible power has never before even been attempted to be exercised by this government. As a matter of fact, it wasn't even attempted to be exercised by King George III in the parliament we rebelled against, much less our own government. That's where we stand now. And as of this moment, we are now at 1/2 of the states in the United States of America that are suing their own federal government as party plaintiffs to protect the Constitution against the federal government. And there'll be another one get in Florida, and Oklahoma's going to file its own suit. So by the end of this month, over half of the states of the United States of America They're not going to be amicus brief filers. They're not going to be friends of the court. They're going to be plaintiffs suing their own federal government to protect the Constitution against that federal government. The Constitution is the document that governs government, but only if we use it. Only if we use it. And it's having life breathed back into it that it hasn't seen in some time, the last few years. But it's still under threat, and it isn't a recent threat. It isn't just this administration. This goes back years and years of the growth of federal power. This isn't just pointing at Democrats. Republicans own this problem too. They own this problem too. And we all have to return to fidelity to that Constitution and do what we say, and that's get out and fight for it. Fight in elections, here lobbying. And that brings me to this year. As long as you're here, the Virginia Healthcare Freedom Act was a great accomplishment. If you can do the same thing with the repeal amendment this year, that would be a great step forward for re-protecting federalism in our constitutional system. It's going to take a lot of states, but it's got to start somewhere. And there's no better place to protect the Constitution than the Commonwealth of Virginia, where the concepts embodied in it began. And you all did a great job last year. I hope you do it again this year. And again, it's going to have to be bipartisan. You can't just do this with one party or the other. It's got to be a commitment not to parties, but to re-protect the rights of the people of this Commonwealth and the Constitution that in turn protects them. And the repeal amendment will help do that. And I've already heard here today concerns about it. What about a runaway convention? There's a simple mathematical protection against a runaway convention. Yes, it is true that once you assemble a convention that the states have called, they can do more or less anything. But none of it becomes the law of the land until it goes back to the states, and not 2/3 of them now, but 3/4 of those states must approve each act of that convention before it becomes part of our Constitution. That's our protection against a runaway convention. But I got news for you. It won't come to that. And I'll tell you why. Because not just this Congress, every Congress has been too afraid of what might happen in convention, that they will lose control of the federal government if they were bypassed and the states could reorder a couple of things and gather some strength back to the states and take it from the federal government. This Congress, if we get close to 2/3, they'll pass it themselves out of nothing. That isn't hope, that's fear. And it's institutional fear on their part. It has always worked that way. And if you get close, if you help get that ball rolling down the hill, and our allies in other states, and I know the speakers worked with other speakers, I've talked to other attorneys general across the country, there is momentum for this. Yeah. But it's got to cross the finish line first somewhere, and I say Virginia is where that ought to happen. Virginia